astronauts will be joining us for lunch today, talking about their personal stories. The young lady is from Egypt. I had the opportunity to meet her at the Analog Astronaut Conference. She really had tried to get here in person, and I do know she actually is hoping that when we have one of our missions, she'll be able to be part of the crew to design and to run that mission. A little bit more about analog missions, you'll hear us talking about it. These are things that are happening in place. It takes some time to design what the research is going to be. One of the things the Analog Astronaut Foundation, launched by Dr. Proctor, will be doing is begin to collect a database of analog research, the way that you have journals in academia. But these research will be more, let's say, action-oriented to make people understand what it is. There's a whole fidelity of the research and the fidelity of the process. So we have with us Sarah, same way we have Chris Hansen-Baski, both of whom are astronauts, and they'll be talking to us about their personal journey. You'll be led again by Dr. Nsombe Jaja.
Thank you very much, Claire. Oh, welcome, Chris and Sarah. We are really happy to have you on. And we have a room of excited, enthusiastic youngsters. They are all operating in the space environment. May I ask those of you who are sitting at the back, those chairs were never intended to be occupied at all. May I ask you to move up and sit at one of the tables, please? That was our intention, not for overflow. Those chairs were never intended to be used. So may I ask you to join us at one of the tables? So Claire has already given a brief introduction of Sarah and Chris. And one of the things she never said about Sarah is that her accomplishments as an astronaut leader, as a leader, as an entrepreneur and advocate, demonstrate her dedication to making a positive impact on the world. And she continues to inspire and motivate others to pursue their dreams. As she shares her story today, I sincerely hope you will be inspired to move forward in the direction of your dreams and make great things happen for you. As it relates to Chris's middle name, in quotes, is Hansen-Baski, and he represented the pillar of generosity as part of the crew of Inspiration 4 by serving as mission specialist on a 3-day mission to orbit. He grew up with a natural curiosity about outer space. He could be found stargazing late at nights from the roof of his high school and launching high-powered model rockets deep in the forest swamps in the college. As a U.S. Space Camp counselor, he conducted simulated space shuttle missions and supported STEM-based education designed to inspire young minds to explore these areas and find their passions. And that's what he intends to do for you, with you, through you today as he shares his story. Because they say facts tell, stories sell. Over to you first. We're going to start with Sarah, and then immediately after with Chris, and then we open it up for general discussions. Thank you.
Well, thank you so much for this very kind introduction. It's so wonderful to see this event here in Africa, and as an African myself, it just really, really means a lot to see Africa finally, being viewed as how much it really, really, truly brings. And it's something that I've dedicated my life to doing now, is to really try to push for Africans to really to believe in themselves more, because I think it all starts from there. And coming from Egypt, I truly understand how sometimes the lack of belief that comes from yourself or from your surrounding could either inhibit you or really push you forward. And in my case, because of the lack of belief that I have had throughout my life, where I've always been told not to study engineering because it would be too hard for me, not to pursue biomedical engineering because I would never have any opportunities in my country. And because also the space field is just so far away from everything that we've known here, that I would be just wasting my time. So I truly, truly understand what it's like to really be told that you shouldn't be doing what you're doing. It's every single step of the way, but doing it anyway because you know that it's the important thing to do. And when you understand that it's necessary, I think that's what pushes you every day to really fight the fight, because it's always going to be a fight and it's always going to be a challenge. And it's really, really great to see so many people interested in the space field and really trying to put effort into it, because it is the future of humanity. So yes, I would like to really thank you for organizing this event and really seeing a lot of people involved in it and all the expertise that's being shared here in the event. And I'm sure it's going to be really, one person in the audience is just going to be listening to one of the talks and just spark an idea. And then, with the right, network or the right person that you're talking to, it's really going to help you, direct you to actually achieving your goals and your dreams that are, for the entire continent. So yeah, that's kind of just like my little brief speech.
All right. Well, that's fantastic, Sarah. It's good to see you again. And I'm really excited to be here as well. I think it's fantastic, and thank you for being able to jump in and go first in this panel this morning, or for me, it's this morning. I'm not sure where you are, but it's pretty early here. I'm in Huntsville, Alabama today because my daughter is attending space camp this week, and so I'm actually going to be here helping to inspire the same kids that I was help teaching as counselors as a counselor at space camp when back in college. So trying to incorporate some more of that inspiration for the next generation. But I absolutely agree with everything Sarah just mentioned, and I think for me it's this incredible opportunity to go to space is something that I think that very many people might dream about or aspire to, but I think the reality of it has been in the past that it is not something that's possible for hardly anyone. Like the chances of becoming an NBA basketball player were better than going to space for so many decades, and that is so thankfully changing thanks to companies like SpaceX and Blue Origin and other companies that are trying to launch different things into space that have traditionally just been reserved for only governments that have been able to just use their massive resources to go to space. But the opportunities are growing. And what I love to see is that it doesn't necessarily require someone to be the best person in their field or to be the best human specimen physically or mentally or any other ways you can think of, and having those seats to go to space be reserved for them. We're taking lots of other people at a broader spectrum of humanity and see that we can take more people from diverse backgrounds, from different types of countries and continents all over the world, and allowing everyone this incredible opportunity to experience that overview effect of what it's like to look back at Earth from really high in altitude and see that we are all really in a spaceship together, that's this big cloudy blue marble just floating here in the blackness of space. It's a perspective that I think is hugely important to capture, and without being able to give more people that point of view, we all start to think that we are separate from one another. But once you get up into space and you look back at Earth and you see how we're just floating there with this really thin layer of atmosphere protecting all of us, then you start to realize that we are in this thing together and that we have a duty and responsibility to one another and to each other to do our very best in whatever it is we do, and to help each other as one humanity, to really make Earth a better place for all of us. I was going to share a few pictures and a few slides if you're willing to see a few pictures, and then I'd be happy to turn it back over to Sarah and answer some questions. But I can pause here and let you guys go ahead and start asking questions, or I can go ahead and start sharing some pictures, whatever you would like to do for this.
Go ahead and start sharing.
All right, I will do that. Okay, let me see if I can get this screen to share. Okay, there we go. All right, I'm going to share this screen here and just talk just really briefly about my experience in space and what it really meant, because Inspiration 4 was that unique mission that allowed us to really think of space as being open to all of us, that we've never really thought of in a way before. And I like to emphasize that in a way that I and relate it back to my biography that you read so wonderfully and introduced me. That here's my family, my mom, my grandparents. I mean, we're all in this together. My family growing up, I'm the kid standing up, and my brother's the one with the mouth gaping wide open. Just as we're looking at pictures together, very curious about what it is, about our family or history. I had always, as you had mentioned, here are the swamps of Florida, where I was chasing down some of these big model rockets that I absolutely enjoyed making as a kid, and as a college student. Constantly pursuing my passions, never really thinking I was going to have any chance of actually going to space, but knowing that I wanted to be connected and close to what we were doing with space programs. And I did take as much of an opportunity as I could to let people know that this is what I love, this is what I want to do. And so I knew that I wanted to be close to space, and I wanted to help others have that opportunity to go and experience what it's like to be an engineer for space. So working at Space Camp, I got a chance to meet astronauts that had flown before and listen to their stories of inspiration. And I constantly looked up to them thinking, man, these are really incredible people that have pursued engineering or the military, fighter pilot school, to really pursue their dreams of going to space. And I just loved it, but I knew it never would happen until Inspiration 4 came along and said, we're going to take somebody at random from this sweepstakes and take them to space with us. And I thought that was really incredible. And I put my name in the hat, never thinking I'd have that opportunity. And I was right, I did not win. But from what I had done in the past and working with some friends that knew that I just absolutely love space, they knew what my passions were. The friend of mine who actually won the ticket was willing to give it up and give it to me in a way that I don't know that I'll ever be able to repay. So that generosity seat that I inherited was given to me from an incredible act of generosity as well. And it's so important to me to recognize that, and also to recognize that as we do go to space, and where we are right now with how it is still a very expensive and opportunity to take, you have to recognize that you have to do big things in space while doing big things for humanity on the ground. And so that was incredible that we were able to partner with St. Jude Children's Research Hospital and ensure that we can make our space mission an incredible fundraiser to help save lives of kids, not just in the United States, but all over the world, because that is what the mission of St. Jude is to eliminate childhood diseases, not just in the US, but all over the world. And so the four of us came from different backgrounds in different corners of the country, never have met each other. Of course, here's Jared, and then you had Cyan speak already today, which is fantastic. And Haley Arsenault, who was a childhood cancer survivor and has a prosthetic body part in her and is now working at that hospital. And then, of course, me. And so they brought us together, and we went through all those different trainings and got to experience G forces in the centrifuge together to build that confidence that we can do this. We also knew that because we were from different backgrounds, we had to prove to each other that we were going to take care of each other and that we were going to be able to withstand tough environments. And here we are at the top of a volcano in the middle of winter, sleeping in the snow after a 9-hour hike in whiteout conditions with snow forming on our hats and our fingertips and our glasses and our hair. But we did not quit, and we supported one another. And I think that is a great story for understanding what it is going to take to get all of this together to go to space, and not just in space. But think about any dream that you have. You're going to be able to go farther and better if you're going with people that support you and you're going as a team. And I think that was the only way that we were all going to be able to finally go to space together, is that if we worked together and watched out for one another. And that is exactly what we did. And here we are at the top of the mountain. You can see the whiteout conditions that we had, where we didn't really get a great view that climbing day, but the next day we were rewarded with that view from the top of that volcano, and could see for miles around. Additionally, here's pad 39A, where we launched from, and I think it's also important to recognize that as we do go to space, we have realized that we are learning and we're building on top of the future or building our future on top of the shoulders of giants that have come before. This launch pad that we launched from, this is where everyone had gone to the moon before previously. This is where the Saturn V had launched to take Neil Armstrong to the moon, and all of our other, all the 12 astronauts that have walked on the moon left from this launch pad. It's the same launch pad that Inspiration 4 launched from. And just down the road from this launch pad is pad 39B, and that is where the Artemis missions will be launching their astronauts from to return to the moon. And so we're learning from our previous experiences, and we're doing our next steps into space together with a bigger goal in mind of establishing bigger presences on the moon, and knowing that we want to take more people to space. And I can't emphasize this teamwork aspect enough. And I know you can't see hardly anybody in this picture except the 4 of us, but if you look closely, you see one person peeking in the back from around the side of the capsule here as it's getting ready to be put onto the rocket. And what you don't see is another group of 20 or so technicians that are working tirelessly to make sure that the 4 of us will be safe and that will be successful. And I think that is also how we go, is that we never go to space alone. We go with the support of our friends and family and all those technicians that have this incredible passion, knowing that we go to space to benefit these millions of people living here on Earth, and that we had this mission for Inspiration 4 to inspire, to encourage others to give a little bit more of themselves, to think of what it was to look like, to look up at the stars, to look up at the sky and think, what does it look like staring back down at Earth? When I look up at the clouds, what do they look like from the other side looking down? And what could that potentially mean for me? It was an incredible opportunity to feel that experience of going through launch, and just knowing too that we are launching from that pad that sent astronauts to the moon. It has a lot of history. And to be able to show others that this is something that's possible, not just for a select few, but for a wider range of people to go. I think that was an incredible opportunity. And seeing Sarah, seeing you fly, I still remember when you came back and you gave one of your very first presentations, talking about how you saw Earth for the first time from that altitude and what it meant to you. It's an incredible thing to hear how even on a short suborbital flight, you feel that same connection back to Earth as we did on, and as I did on our 3-day flight around the Earth. You look back and you see these beautiful clouds and these streaks of shadows from like going around the Earth once every 90 minutes, and seeing the shadows elongate, and the sunrises and the sunsets. And then you see, oh gosh, the very different cloud formations, the blackness of space to contrast against the brightness of Earth, which was the most beautiful thing I think I've ever seen. When we looked up through the cupola bubble there to look back at the Earth, I know I was just awestruck just how incredibly beautiful the planet was to me from that altitude. And then seeing it rotate underneath us and seeing how thin the atmosphere really looked from where we were, and knowing that we could see the entire uninterrupted horizon of the Earth in one view, it really struck me as if we're able to go around the planet in just 90 minutes, it is a small place to live. And I think there's a quote I think by Yuri Gagarin that mentions how Earth is just big enough for cooperation and too small for conflict. And that's absolutely true. If we can get around it in 90 minutes, then we have this opportunity to really take care of one another and do the best we can to make life better for all of us. And I get tingles, and I think about how incredible beautiful our Earth is when I look back and see pictures like this. This is the coast of Australia here from the cupola, and it's incredible colors that you see, the differences between the blues and the whites of the sands and the red clay of the interior. And then you can see where the smoke is from wildfires, and that human presence that you see. You don't see the cities as easily from this altitude, but you can see, the forces at work that we are imparting upon this planet when it comes to the wildfires, especially in Brazil, and in some other parts of the world where we are impacting our planet in ways that we may not fully understand without getting that higher altitude view as you get up into space. But at night, then you can really understand how thin the atmosphere is and how dynamic of a planet we live on, how it really is. As you go into the dark side of the planet, where it's nighttime, you see this little green line that hovers just above the surface. And everything you know and love is being kept alive in that really thin band of atmosphere. But you can see at night those yellow lights of the cities, and here we can see the city of Chicago next to Lake Michigan, and then the white lights on top of the clouds is where you see that beautiful. That's lightning, and it's so dynamic to see that the Earth really does feel like it's alive, and then it's a dynamic system that we are living underneath, and it makes the most incredible light show naturally that you could ever possibly imagine. And I couldn't get enough of the colors. I wanted to share and want to try to impart on you as much of that overview effect as I possibly can. So I keep showing you pictures of Earth to maybe give you this sense of how really cool it is to see the planet from this point of view. And to know too that as we're going into space and we send more humans into space, we bring more of our humanity with us, right? So, and so I'm bringing up things to space with me, not just as trinkets or whatnot, but things that my family might recognize. Or I bring a special set of dog tags that my wife made for me, and my has a little saying from my daughters on there, because we're not just going to explore, just to say that we're going to space. We're going there to bring more people, to make a difference in the world, and in doing so, Siam made her art in space. I played the ukulele. I wanted to make sure I brought up things that represented my family and my friends, that could say that, okay, we have this broader connection to each other. And so that's why there's some of these things floating in the cupola with me. And again, some of the views that we had, you can see the tops of clouds on this beautiful dynamic planet. And you think about how these thunderhead clouds are so tall when you're sitting on the ground looking up at them, and then looking back from above down at the Earth to see, oh, that's not just one anvil thunderstorm cloud. There are dozens in view, and that they are so close to the surface, and we are only a couple hundred kilometers high. And realizing that that is a very thin layer of protective boundary, keeping us all alive here together and successfully living and thriving here on Earth. And then, of course, 3 days later, we splashed down. We were able to celebrate, and here comes those two boats, to help rescue us out of the water. That teamwork mentality. I've been forever changed by my experiences to space, and it was thanks to a lot of support and help I received along the way, and especially thanks to my crew, who were absolutely supportive of one another and made the mission successful. And being successful, not just in space, but we raised over $243 million for St. Jude Children's Research Hospital, and which went to help this advanced research center that's in use in Memphis, Tennessee, where they are continuing to find cures for childhood diseases. And they share that research freely with other hospitals around the world, with the true belief that the best predictor of childhood survival rates for certain diseases should not be based on where you live, and they are working to change that every day. But beyond that, and that's why I'm here in Alabama today and this week, is that the next generation of explorers and people that will venture us out into space, they're growing up in school right now, and they need to know that they can have these opportunities, and that they need to believe in themselves. And so places like Space Camp ignite passions. We literally see astronauts walk through the doors as kids and then grow up to become those engineers and astronauts that actually go out into space. And so inspiring those kids to pursue their dreams, whether it is engineering or it's even in the arts, if you become that person who's known to be the expert in your field constantly, then whenever someone is thinking of a particular field of research, or if they're looking for a car mechanic or someone who's good with their hands on with robotics, they're going to think of this person who has made it known this is what they love, this is what they're pursuing and has become their passion. And that gives you an opportunity in ways that you may not always realize. And I feel very fortunate that I now work at Blue Origin to help facilitate others go to space to experience this incredible overview effect. Because at Blue Origin, we truly believe, and I do know that we will see millions of people living and working in space, and it starts with getting the cost of launch down and enabling folks like Sarah to go and others that traditionally have not been in the pathways of going through the NASA astronaut corps. There are so many other paths now to go to space, and I can't wait to see them all come together, because it's not just about launching things into space. We're getting the costs down. We're going to be using our resources that we find in space, and using those to benefit the rest of humanity here on Earth. And then inspiring the next generation to take up where we left off is so important. And that's why, like, working with Club for the Future at Blue Origin and working with the people here at Space Camp, and then talking with you and then making sure that we provide those same opportunities of equity, no matter where you are in the world, to have access to opportunities to be able to speak with people you are just wanting to understand how did you get where you are, to be able to talk to others and just get those questions answered so that you know that it's possible, and inspire those others to pursue their passion.
Thank you very much, Chris, because this is exactly what you're doing there in the camp, is exactly what you're doing with this group of youngsters who are present in this room. I know many of them have big dreams of playing in this space environment, and today you have inspired them to believe even more in their dreams as they move forward. Now, Sarah, one of the things we got from you is that you were not encouraged as a female to participate in this space. Yet, you have made impressive contributions in the space field, having developed expertise in several areas, including mechatronics, robotic surgery, stem cell development, augmented reality, Formula 3 car design, and bioastronautics. Could you tell us a little bit about your journey into these areas and the accomplishments that you have made?
Yes, of course. And it's so great to see you, Chris, and to see those photos. They gave me life right now. It's such, I mean, it's like you were saying, I completely agree with everything that you said as well, Chris. It's just and such an important experience to really allow to give everyone around the world. Yeah, my journey has been quite unconventional. And like Chris was saying, I'd never had a path to take to go to space. And honestly, growing up, I grew up in Egypt, and it was never really something that I was allowed to dream about. So it's not something, if you ever dreamed about something like this, you're always told that it's not for you, and you're basically not allowed to dream about it. So for me, I always dreamed about being an inventor, about doing, but I was just a very, very curious person. And I used to take apart toys, I used to take apart like anything that was in front of me just to understand how it worked. And I take that throughout my entire life. And that's the thing that has been constant for me. It's always about learning something new and just kind of trying to understand it and really using it at the end to really solve problems that are there, because we have so many problems in so many different fields, and it's all about putting the pieces together. And before you do that, you need to break them apart. So for me, I started by pursuing mechanical engineering, and that's what I did for my bachelor's. But at the same time, I was very interested in the human body and in the problems that we have as human beings. So that's why I minored in both biology and chemistry and did pre-med as well. So I had such a strong passion about engineering and about using physics to really, solve the problems that are around us. But also I wanted to understand the problems that exist in the human body. So this is how everything started for me. It was all about being curious and saying, like, so what can I do here? Like, how can I help? How can we solve those problems? So I did my master's in biomedical engineering, where I worked on robotic surgery. I was given the chance to really, have a lot of responsibility in specific projects where I really needed to push the agenda a little bit and really try to solve the problems, even though I might not have had the skills, I might not have had the experience to do them, but you have to go outside your comfort zone and do them. And for instance, for my mechanical engineering bachelor's back in the day, we had to design a Formula 3 car body using biomimicry. So we had to, and this was something that it was a graduate level project that we did for my undergrad. And even though it could seem very intimidating, or it could seem very, like, how am I going to solve this problem? Like, who am I? I'm just a student, in Egypt. Like, how am I going to solve this problem? But you can, it's all about, breaking down the big problem into smaller ones and always trying to tackle those. And that's constantly what I've kept doing my entire life. And after my biomedical engineering degree, I worked on augmented reality for a little bit, which again was completely outside of my skill set, because I'm not a computer engineer, but I've had to really understand how it works and use math and like the skills that I did have and apply those, because you might not be aware of how much you can bring to the table by having a different perspective. And I think that's really, really important for us to really believe. And after, I also worked at a stem cell lab. So I worked on stem cell development for neurodegenerative diseases. So that's something that I've also really enjoyed, but it wasn't really using any of my engineering skills. That's why I switched to robotic surgery, which again was very, very different than anything that I'd done. And then I started asking big questions, because you might wonder, like, how did I get to space? Because it was just there were no opportunities for us in the country or anywhere, and you're never really exposed to it. So you're never watching rocket launches, you're never hearing about any of the astronauts that exist, in the world. And it's because you're always there's like this huge separation between the two. Now it's a lot more, now there's a lot more happening. There is so much more coverage. So now we're living in a world where like this separation is becoming less and less, which is incredible to see. But for me, there was a huge, thick black line between the two, where it was just, completely inaccessible and completely not allowed for you to even access. So I just continued by asking the questions. I had a lot of questions about the world, about humanity, about astrophysics, and it really bothered me that we didn't have those answers. So I continued asking those questions, and I continued trying to really dig deep into how can I use my skills to really push the field forward. And the more I was doing that, I was working full time. It was a crazy time, and I founded a company that does exactly that. So I founded the company Deep Space Initiative, which is giving access and opportunity to everyone around the world to work in the field. So to do the research that is actually benefiting humanity, regardless of where you're from or your resources or anything like that. Because for me, it was such a difficult thing for me to break through, because there were just no opportunities. And even if there was an opportunity that I could apply to, that I know that I was qualified for, I was just not allowed to apply to them just because of where I was from. Which, there's a lot of laws that exist that make it so, and they might have made sense a very long time ago, but they don't make sense anymore. So I think at the same time, with the Deep Space Initiative company, what we did was that we were trying to address this problem through research, by giving opportunities in research. But then we noticed that, one second, there's not even, we are lacking also the educational aspect of things, where people are just not having access to the education. You can find courses and opportunities online to get this in education, but it's completely unaffordable. I couldn't afford, buying a course online for, I don't know, like $20,000. It was just completely unaffordable for me as well. So what we're trying to do is also provide educational courses that are taught by former NASA chief scientists and really, really incredible, very experienced people that are so passionate about the same mission of increasing this access to knowledge, because there shouldn't be this inaccessibility. There shouldn't be this barrier for entry. So that's what we're trying to do as well at Deep Space Initiative. And then going back to the laws that exist, we also noticed that for us to really push the field forward, by not only us being but one of the few players that are providing these opportunities for everyone, regardless of where they're from, we needed to address those laws as well. So we created another legal department that works with, we work with a lot of space lawyers from all over the world, where we're trying to really study the possibility, how can we solve this issue of, those laws that exist? How can we educate Congresswomen and men about the importance of maybe updating those laws now, and what other solution can we provide them with? So we're writing a paper now that we're presenting in Baku, Azerbaijan in September, where we're really trying to talk about the possibility of having, let's say, a space visa, because there's a lot of companies in the US and everywhere in the world that are just unable to hire people because of those laws. And it's becoming a really big difficulty because, like Chris was saying, we are going to have millions of people living and working in space. But if we don't give them access, or if we don't prepare the workforce, or if we continue having those laws that create this barrier, we're never going to really be able to prepare them for when that day does come, when we do need to bring those people to space and really allow them to work there. So that's also what we're doing at Deep Space Initiative, which is really, it's a big endeavor, but I think it's really, really worth it. And we have a team of incredible people from all over the world with the same mission of increasing this access, because most of us at DSI have experienced this inaccessibility, have experienced this lack of opportunity. So I think it's really, really important to really, when you're working on something and when you're passionate about it, to really, what we do, let's say, is everything that we're building or creating, or all of the services that providing the opportunities that we're creating out of nothing. It's everything that we wish we had at the beginning of our journeys. And I think that's really, really important. And then apart from Deep Space Initiative, I'm also working on a few other ventures. I'm working with a company that is using algae for carbon capture and O2 production. So we have products that could be employed on Earth and in space, which is really, really, it comes from the overview effect. Like Chris was saying, seeing Earth from space really does push you to have this new sense of responsibility towards it, where you need to protect it. Because when you see the very thinnest blue line, when you realize that that's the only thing that is keeping us alive, it is just, it kind of like clicks, and it makes sense that it is completely our responsibility to protect it. There is no one else. No one is going to come and save Earth, and it's kind of like a big realization where you think, but this is crucial. This is our future. This is humanity that we're really trying to protect. And we need to treat Earth as if it's the only one we have, because it really is. And so that's why I've been working with this other company where we're really trying to develop these solutions that are simple solutions to big problems. Yes?
Sarah, thank you. I think this is a really good point to segue into getting some feedback and some questions from the audience who've been listening intently to you. I think they are all taking away the fact that regardless of your circumstances, once you have a big dream and you believe in yourself, you can make it happen. And as my coach said, do what you can, right where you are, with what you have, and you will realize that you have far more than you ever imagined. So I'd like to open it up now to the audience. If you have any questions or any comments of both Chris and Sarah. Great opportunity now to ask the questions and how you can connect with our organization in order to build the bridges and to build the bonds to strengthen your community here. Let me first. Come up so they can see you, please. And just introduce yourself, who you are, and
Go on the other side.
especially the fact that you are over here, especially that you are an aerospace engineer. Right?
Hello. My name is Olivia Gatferi, and hi. So there's something that Sarah said that caught my attention. You said you might not be aware of how much you can bring to the table when you have a different perspective. And the two of you were not what typically the candidates that would be picked to go to space, and you went. And I just want to say that that is an inspiration to the ladies, and even not just the ladies, but all the young people here in Africa who would want to go to space. And at least now we can have a different mindset that even if you are someone who would not typically be picked, there's still a space for you, there's still an option, there's still a chance, and I just want to thank you for that.
Good morning, afternoon, wherever you are. Okay, so my name is Samuel. I'm an astrophysicist, and I wanted to ask a question to both Sarah and Chris. Okay, so for Sarah, now that you're trying to establish Omni Africa Space Exploration Analog Simulation Center, what kind of impact do you think it will have on the African mindset? Because you talked about, people at home didn't think you were cut out for this. But what would you think would be the impact of having such a station here in Africa and Kenya? And also to Chris, I think it's a very important point you mentioned about, all your friends knew you would love to go to space, and that's why they gave you that opportunity. So I think it's also important that your friends know what you're passionate about, and I hope, let me just say it here, if you get a ticket to space, I am free to travel. Yes, so Chris, I'm just curious, what kind of mission were you for the 3 days? What kind of missions were you doing as you circled the Earth?
Okay, so about the analog stations in Africa. So analog missions are very, very important. And I'm sure Cyan talked to you about that, and maybe also it's been covered in this event so far. But just to kind of like, I don't want to repeat what they are, but I think the impact is very, very important for Africa because it gives it a seat at the table where we're really trying to prepare, because now with the analog stations that we have all over Earth, they still are inaccessible for a lot of people from Africa because the flights are expensive, because the opportunities are not that many. But once you put them on the same land where you're still providing a lot of opportunities for people around the station as well. You're employing people that are local. You're really bringing access to making it easier for people to really get this type of training. And honestly, when I did my analog mission, my first one, it was what I was always talking about is that it's so important to even experience it, even if you're not interested in space. Because like Chris was saying, the team dynamics that you learn, the being in an enclosed environment, being, having to work under stress, having a really, really jam-packed schedule. I think it's really important to have those skills and experience them, even if you don't want to go to space. So being able to provide that in the country, you will be training people not only to be prepared both psychologically and a little bit physically to go to space, but you're also preparing and giving an edge to the other side of the workforce. You're giving a lot of the other people that are even not in the space field. You don't have to be in the space field to go to space or to want to experience something like this. So the impact is, I think you will be giving the opportunity to a lot more people to be prepared in the psychological sense, where you need to increase your teamwork skills. So you need to be able to deal with stress. You need to be able to handle a lot at the same time. You need to be able to, how do you manage conflict if it does arise? For example, for me, I was the crew medical officer, but then I became the crew psychologist when we had a conflict. So this is something that I never really thought I would ever be the one helping conflict, because I had never really been put in that situation where I was the only person who could, listen to both sides and really try to resolve things. But once you realize that this is, a strong suit that you have, you can apply that to other things in your life. And then once you also in that same environment, you also learn what your weaknesses are. And then you get to work on those, because you can't really be better or become better if you don't know where you're lacking. Or so you have to give yourself the chance to experience that, to really push yourself and know where you need to work on so that you can work on them. Because I think the only thing that we can do is every day is just try to be better. And I think having an analog station in the country would allow a lot more people to do that.
Excellent. Thank you, Sarah. Chris, there was a part of the question for you. He was asking, what type of mission did you go on for the 3 days?
Right. So, gosh, I'm just getting tingles though listening to Sarah. I'm smiling ear to ear, thinking about all those things that we went through, oh gosh, the things you're talking about are so important. Yeah, because I played backup medical officer in space, never thinking I would play that role. My brother was the person who wanted to be an EMT, and he's the physician's assistant in the family. But yeah, you take on the roles that you need to take on to support your team. And the mission, I'm thinking about all the things that we've been talking about and that you talked about, Sarah. And it takes all kinds of skills and people, and the missions that we're going on next with Blue Origin. Oh my goodness, I get excited. I just had a chance to tour the engine factory in Huntsville yesterday, where I'm working, and you would not believe the excitement that is hidden behind those doors, and what we're going to be doing as a company, and where people are going to have the opportunities to go to space. And what's really exciting to me is that it doesn't take a one type of person to make this work. We need all types of skills and people. We need the people that can do AI. We need the people that can do engineering. We need the people that can solder. We need the people that understand how to make electrical connections. We need the folks that can take a Raspberry Pi and program in Python. And I mean, that's a low barrier to entry for so many people, that you can get on the internet and learn how to program. And we use those exact same languages and skills in sending rockets to space. And so, I mean, the Blue Origin, we just have, it's been announced that we're going to the moon, and it was with the Artemis 5 missions. We're doing a Mars mission as a company, that we're building orbital reef. I mean, it's all on there on the internet. What's happening, and being a part of it. It starts with staying passionate in what you do and keeping the goal in mind that we do have this incredible responsibility to work together, bring your skills, and be okay with getting uncomfortable and pushing yourself a little bit. And I mean, I get excited listening to you, Sarah, and I 100% agree with everything you're saying about all those things. And so the mission that I went on, if that was, it was an incredible opportunity just to go to space and to experience it and conduct the medical experiments we did in the vehicle, so that we can enable future missions that go to the moon and to Mars, and to understand how the body reacts in space. And then, so the next missions that I'm working on are going to enable others to experience those same things and to do them safely and more sustainably. Oh gosh,
Thank you very much. Thank you so very much, Chris and Sarah. I'd like to introduce you to one of our space enthusiasts who has done some amazing work in this field. He is very shy and almost an introvert, but he is one of the most passionate we have had in the room. He has designed images for space suits that are culturally relevant. And come over here, let them see you first. Culturally relevant, and he is the only one. He's the only one who has come to this conference dressed in a spacesuit. Everybody else is dressed in ordinary clothes. He's the only one who is dressed in a spacesuit. So he has designed 2 spacesuits, one for male and one for female, complete with helmet and safety boots and everything. But here's, Isaac is his name, and Isaac feels that Mars is the next frontier, and so his design is travel to Mars. He's very passionate about it. There is nothing in his background to say that he could be that he could go into space, but he is so passionate. He is working every single day to make this happen, and we know that at some point a door of opportunity is going to be open for him. So Chris and Sarah, I'm asking you if there is any way at all that you could get Isaac into an analog simulation space somewhere in the world so that he could feel it and experience it as you have done. Here in a minute, we want it immediately. Within the next 6 months. Within the next 6 months, that would be absolutely wonderful if you could provide such an opportunity for Isaac. Thank you all so very much. This is Isaac. Give him a round of applause. Awesome.
Thank you, Zombie. Sarah, you really inspire me because of Space for Humanity, one. I'm actually waiting for my, I'm on the line waiting for that chance to join the Citizen Astronaut program. So thank you for being an inspiration. Chris, maybe a question for you. How was it about selecting your team of astronauts, if you are involved, and how was it working with the team throughout the training and even during the mission when you spent 3 days in space? How was it working with your team? Thank you.
I had can you repeat the question just a little bit? I had a little trouble hearing. I'm so sorry.
What was the question? Tell me and I have to listen. How was working?
During the training session, during
During the training session and during the mission, how did you work with your team to make this happen? And this is the last question. We are going to
one more.
Okay. Oh, yes. That's a great question. I think working with our teams, and I'll let you finish out, Sarah, after all this, and I'll be brief. Yeah, during the training for all of this, and I had the opportunity to understand a little bit more about how New Shepard trains as well, and it's very similar once you are getting ready for your space flight. You are working together as a team and to be successful in your flight. But for the missions and the experiences we went through together, you stay humble, you ask questions, you bring the very best of yourself forward, and you also ask for help when you know that you are not the expert or you need some help on something that you know that you can't accomplish on your own. Because if you have the trust in your teammates that you've built by going through a tough analog together, whether it was we climbed those mountains or wherever it is you're doing, that's a little bit different from what you've experienced in your normal day-to-day job, then you're going to be successful in space because you've got that skill set, that mindset that says, I am part of a team and a system that is more important than just me being a singular individual. And I think that's the best thing you could think of. And by the way, I love your suits. I think they're absolutely phenomenal. And I think just seeing that diversity of the perspective and the viewpoints, because like I mentioned before, the more people we bring to space, we bring more of our individual humanities with us, and those identities don't disappear, but we do them in a way, and we bring them up to space in a way where we contribute them to the greater good of what we're all trying to accomplish together. So thank you again for having me today as well. This has been fantastic, and I'll let you finish it out.
Excellent. One more question.
Oh,
Hi, Hank. Hi, Sarah. So I have a question. This one's more so geared for you, Sarah. You mentioned how in different things you experience, you're used to being told no and kind of psyching yourself out in speech. So it's a two-part question. The first part is, what type of things started to happen that allowed that mindset to change? And having this new mindset, have you seen the fruits of it with this new mindset?
Thank you, Toby. I mean, if you guys don't know, Toby and I were in Florida together and we did some of our training together. So it's so great to see you here. I wish I could be there in person. And yeah, that's a really, really great question, to be honest. And I think for me, it wasn't a shift, so much a shift in my life that kind of like told me, okay, no, I can do it. It was always this rebellious kind of side of me where I never really accepted anyone telling me no about anything, even as a child. Like my parents used to tell me that in class when I was young, if someone told me to take an exam and I just didn't agree with it, I would just copy whatever like the writing was on the walls. I would just copy those as my answers. Because I didn't really, if you don't tell me why we're doing something, then I don't really like feel the need to do it, you know? So I think but if I truly believed that it needed to be done, I would be completely obsessed with it. And I kind of do not quit until it's just done. And for me, I think that has served me well. There's good and bad in everything, I think. And yes, that could create some problems, but also I think for me, it has served me really well where this resilience that I've built, because, you know, you're always told that if you're always like, you know, everything around you wants to crush you, you need to be resilient. And for me, like with how I grew up and the schools that I went in, like and the bullying, you know, that I've experienced, which I think a lot can relate to, because, you know, in school, things are just the way they are. And of course, a lot of the traumas that you experience in the real world, you do need to develop this resilience. And for me, that was, you know, it came from that where, no, it's just like, if you're asked, like, why can't you be normal, which is something that I've been told my entire life, even by my parents, which they were really wondering, why isn't she normal? Like I was just never really I never really felt like I belonged anywhere. I was always an outsider. And it's because of this like resilience that I found that I had inside of me. And I think it's really, really important to have when you're trying to do something that's new, because we need to look at the definition of innovation. And I think that's really important to, as an engineer, I always try to take a step back and break it down. And I think it's the same thing when you're trying, like with the word innovation. It means that you're changing something, you're creating something new. You're really trying to change something that is already established. And if you really try to understand that, people do not want you to change the status quo. So in turn, you're going to face resistance, because a lot of people are going to resist that something new because it's risky, it's maybe not worth it, and like this and this and this and this. So I think you need to, if you understand that you're going to be facing the resistance, you can be prepared for it. And you just like try to really always trust your gut and really trust the power that you have inside of you. That, you know, we are a lot more powerful than we give our credit for. And I think we all have it inside of us. And it's not something that, you know, you can create, like you can, you know, develop it more. You can really train yourself to do that, but you're never going to get it if you don't put yourself in the situation where you are very, very at risk of failing. And I have failed so many times in my life. And I think the more times you fail, the more you learn from those. And you learn from those a lot more from successes.
Thank you very much, Sarah. We are so grateful to both you and Chris for the wonderful contribution you have made to this space. And if I may sum up with the 3 big takeaways from this discussion, it is follow your passion, follow your heart, follow your spirit in the pursuit of your dreams. The second one is those who say it cannot be done should get out of the way of those who are trying to do it. And the third one, if it is possible at all, it is possible for all. Thank you all so very much. And audience, thank you so much for being such a gracious audience. Thank you. I'll now turn over to Dr. Claire Nelson, who will wrap up with some comments.
Thank you. Again, Dr. Inform the judge her hand, please, for the moderation. And of course, again, for Sarah and Chris, Sarah, that person, as I said to you all, Sarah really had wanted to be here. She's been traveling back and forth. I think she was in Cote d'Ivoire last week. So I know at some point we're going to get her very early. She's actually pledged to also be one of the advisors for Oaseas. And given that Egypt is going to be the headquarters of the AU Space Agency, it is an actual natural fit for her to help us get this off the ground. Sarah, we're on a crew to get this done. Our first mission by April. So next May at the Analog Astronaut Conference, 2 people from Kenya will be there to present on this mission. Chris, thank you so much. Club for the future, let me say, next time I'll come and make sure I'm in touch with Chris beforehand so we can get a Club for the Crew future project here and we can get those postcards flown to space on the next Blue Origin mission. Thank you, thank you, thank you. All right. What is that? Oh, they're here. Okay, fabulous. Okay. So the Club for the Future postcards are here. And we're going to ask you have all the crayons I provided on your table the next couple of days between today and tomorrow. Please sign your postcard, get your artwork going, and we get them sent off back to Blue Origin, and they'll be flown on one of their missions, and we'll get them sent back to you here in Kenya. We're so grateful for these opportunities. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And the extras, what we'll do, we're going to have them at the Moon Day event, so people who are not here can get access to it. And maybe some of the students too. I just want to say thank you all for this session. Again, we're going to have lunch. It's only 10 minutes. Get your lunch and bring it back here. We cannot keep our people waiting. And I want to introduce my new protege, mentee, nephew, adopted nephew. Come, Caleb. My new protege, adopted nephew. This is Caleb Anderson. He'll be speaking tomorrow. Today he'll be meeting with some students on campus. But Caleb Anderson is our future astronaut and has signed on to be an Oaseas partner. He's a junior aerospace engineer at Georgia Tech University. And as our youngest member, 14 years old, he'll be speaking to tomorrow about his future and future space as we see it. So thank you, thank you, thank you. Caleb's mom is Caribbean, his dad is of Jamaican heritage, so I'm very, very excited to have our own Caribbean heritage person in the Oasis project. Thank you so much.